All right, how the glutes looking? Pop it, look. Oh, hey man, what's up guys? All right guys, ladies and gents, today the topic is, has social media ruined bodybuilding? And I'm going to try to keep a really unbiased perspective here and look at it from different angles. When I say social media, I'm referring mainly to YouTube and Instagram. And when I say ruined bodybuilding, that kind of has, what does that really mean? Bodybuilding was never a real popular sport among the masses anyway. It's always been a niche sport. So what do you mean by ruined bodybuilding? For me, my definition of bodybuilding equates to the stage. So is what's going on Instagram and YouTube affecting what's happening on stage? So when you talk about bodybuilding on stage, you got to look at, there's the pro level, and then there's kind of like the national level, and then there's kind of the local level of competing, and then people who really don't compete, but they love bodybuilding, they love building their bodies. So if you look at the pro level, the best of the best, the physiques are still really impressive. I was at the Mr. Olympia this year. I was sitting up very close. The physiques are incredibly impressive. Maybe they're not as good as the 90s, but I would equate that more to genetics and to some degree, a little bit more hard work. But generally speaking, I don't really think pro bodybuilding at the highest level, I don't think the bodies are bad. I would like to see them look more like the 90s bodies, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you when Rolly Winkler walked out, I wasn't impressed. I was very impressed. Rolly looked phenomenal. Same thing with Sean when he walked out. He won the Olympia and deservedly so. He looked phenomenal. Now, what about kind of this national level with amateurs? I did my first national level show in the 90s. So I've competed at that level for a couple generations. And I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, the national level was much more difficult back then. It was very difficult to make the top 15 at the USA or the Nationals. It was very difficult. There was between 30 and 40, 45 guys. My first pro qualifier I did was the Nationals, and there was 42 guys in my class. And I didn't make the top 15. That level was very tough. There were very few pro cards awarded. So from the perspective of his social media ruined bodybuilding, the national level is not as tough, but what does that have to do with social media? It really doesn't have much to do with social media per se. It's more of, there's more pro cards given out in various classes. I got mine at the Team Universe. There's other pro qualifiers too. They're seemingly popping up everywhere. So I think it's more of a talent drain based on how pro cards are awarded. I don't think it has anything to do with social media. Now what about at the local level? At the local level, it used to be a very big deal to win the state title. If you won, in my case, the Mr. Ohio, that was very highly regarded. If you won the Mr. California, you were awesome. You were destined to be a good pro. And so forth. Mr. Florida, the Mr. New York, these are all very prestigious titles. Now when you go to these local shows, there's not many bodybuilders competing. Does that have to do with social media? I would argue to a degree yes, and to a degree no. Part of it is the introduction of these new classes. So you have classic physique, you have men's physique where they wear the board shorts, and more people tend to get in those classes because they can be more competitive. It's easier for them to be competitive as opposed to being in straight bodybuilding. So there's definitely at the local level, the further you go down, the lower the level of bodybuilders there are, or the number, and the lower the quality. So, but I would argue that's not so much social media, it's also the introduction of the other classes. Now, I will say this though, with the introduction of social media, you see a bazillion pros. You see all these physique pros, you see all these got the board short pros. So all these people that are now getting on social media see that and they say, well, he's a pro, I can be a pro. So you get this, and this is where social media has kind of a negative impact. You get these people that see somebody, all these pro cards given out, and these guys just think, oh, I can compete next year and get a pro card. I can't even begin to tell you how many times every single week I get people that email me and say, John, I want to be a pro. What do you think? And I'll say, well, have you ever competed? They'll say, no, I haven't competed, but I've got 3 friends that are pros, so I know I can do it. I'm like, well, it's not that easy for a bodybuilder. Maybe we can try something physique-wise. But so there's a different mentality. Back 10, 15, 20 years ago, you had to grind, and then eventually you'd win your pro card. Every once in a while, a freak would come out of nowhere and beat everybody, but generally speaking, we knew who was coming, we knew who the favorites were to get their pro card, and you had to kind of pay your dues. But now there's so many, there's so many cards awarded, and people see that on social media. They see all these YouTube people that have pro cards. They see all these, particularly Instagram, all these pros on Instagram. So they think I can do that. And then they think, well, if I can be famous, right? If I can get a pro card and get on Instagram, show my Photoshop pics, and I can be famous. And then their kind of their whole life starts revolving around likes and followers and all that kind of stuff. So, social media puts a real spotlight on those classes, and people want to jump into those classes for notoriety, which is very different than jumping into the sport because you love to train. There's a big difference between I love to train and look a certain way versus I want to be famous on social media. Now, the beauty of social media is it's given a lot of people an opportunity to make a true living out of the sport. We never had that before. You had to be a top pro in demand, or you had to have a really good supplement sponsorship. Nowadays, bodybuilders don't really get many supplement sponsorships because they don't really draw a lot of people to the brand, honestly. Only a very few do. So the opportunities there have dwindled, but the opportunities to make a living on social media have really opened up. If you get good at YouTube, you can make a fair amount of money. If you get good at Instagram, you can lead people to your brand. So from my perspective, social media has opened up a lot of opportunities for us we've never had before. That's a good thing. It has highlighted how easy it is because there's so many pro cards out there that people want to jump into the sport. They don't really understand hard work. They just want to be famous. So from that perspective, it's not a good thing. But here's what I would say at the end of the day. Before social media ever existed, there were guys like me that were training hard. We were never in magazines. We just loved to train. So I would say focus on yourself, right? I don't care what's going on Instagram or YouTube or whatever. It doesn't impact what I do when I come to the gym. We just finished training our back just now, and we had an awesome back workout. That's what bodybuilding is to me. And so for those of you who don't compete, for example, you just like to come in, train hard, and bust your butt. I totally respect that. And that's what bodybuilding is to me. It's the goal of improving yourself, to setting PRs, not only in weight, but in being able to just push yourself. Hey, I've never been able to push myself like that before. It's walking out of the gym knowing that you did everything you could. You left it in the gym, man. You left it on the floor. You did everything you could. That to me is what bodybuilding is. That's truly what the essence of the sport is. And, so whatever's happening on YouTube or Instagram, it really shouldn't matter. You should still come in, bust your butt, and then bodybuilding itself, you should still love it. Now, is bodybuilding on stage as competitive as it was at the top of the pro level? It is. Beyond that, it's probably not. But you know what? I don't care. I still love bodybuilding. I don't care how many people are getting their pro cards. I don't care who's competing at pro shows. I really don't care. What I care about is, can I come into the gym and can I lay it on the line and can I work hard? That's what matters to me. And that's what you should care about. So anyways, those are just some random thoughts from me in regards to social media and kind of the good things that go along with social media, but the bad things that go along with social media. I personally love social media. I work really hard on my YouTube and Instagram because it gives me a way to connect with people. It gives me a way to teach. So for me, it's a phenomenal tool. I love it, and I don't want it to go away. That's probably a little different than most people my age feel, but that's how I feel. I embrace it, and I really enjoy it. And I've met many of you through social media, which has been very cool. So anyways, those are my thoughts. I would love to hear your opinion. Feel free to ruffle feathers below. If you don't agree with me, I am A-okay with that. That's awesome. I think it's a great topic. It's a great debate. Either way, whether you agree with me, you don't agree with me, I appreciate you watching this video. The other thing I want to wrap it up with, I want to give you a little bit of business advice. You can take it or leave it as it pertains to YouTube and Instagram. I'm going to give you some really simple advice. Be yourself and be authentic. My YouTube channel is geared towards sharing information and having constructive dialogue and for us all to learn together. I don't have a gimmick. Now there's a lot of people who have a gimmick and they've skyrocketed, but eventually that shooting star will come down because there's nothing of real substance. Be yourself, all right? Don't pretend you know everything. That's another thing that kind of drives me crazy. Get these people that have been in a sport 2 years and all of a sudden they're experts. So be yourself, be authentic. You don't have to put on a show for everybody. If you're a clown by nature, like my buddy Juji Mufu, then be a clown. He's awesome, he's being himself. But don't try to be somebody you're not. The same thing with Instagram, guys. Just guys, gals, just be yourself. Whatever you love, talk about what you love, why you love it. If you want to help somebody, talk about how you can, here's some tips, here's some things you might want to try. But just above all, I just wish people would just be themselves and be authentic. And for me, that's the only way I know how to be. That's how I've been my whole career. So I think if you take that advice, it may not get you to the top fast, but your trajectory will be like this. You'll continue to grow because people will respect you and what you have to say. And to me, that's how you build kind of a long-range business. If you want to get in and out, that's probably not the best advice, but if you're somebody who wants to be around for a long time, I've been in the sport for over 30 years now, that's how you build your business. Authenticity, honesty, not being a know-it-all. I guess those are the biggest business tips I would give you guys who really enjoy your social media. So I hope that helps. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.